Let's bring in Roger Bennett, founder of Men in Blazers, joining us now to the celebration here. Messi is coming to the United States. You said it would never happen, Roger, and it has.
Danny P, it was a joy to listen to the commissioner of the NBA, who looks like my eldest son. He is so gorgeous. To follow him is an absolute delight. And to be here with you on a day which is, for all who love the growth of football in this nation, this beautiful nation, it is incredible. Lionel Messi, it's a bit like if LeBron decided, sod the Lakers, I'm going to go to China, I'm going to play for the Shanghai Sharks, I'm going to do commercial deals all over that great nation. That's what Messi's doing by coming here. Conspiracy theorists, I'm sorry, he doesn't own Apple. He may play in a provisor. That may be, he may play football. He'll still score a couple of hat tricks, but he's coming. It's a very creative deal to make him come. And I think for Miami, it's probably the greatest day in that city's history since Don Johnson discovered teal.
Oh, okay. I like that. Okay. How does this affect? What does this affect? Who's this affect?
Well, America, clearly, from your last caller, now has conspiracy theories about football, which is progress. All right. I mean, it's immense. Just to be clear, America's had Pele. You probably remember him, Dan. Yeah, Beckham came here. That is this times 1,000. I mean, this is a gentleman who, yes, he's 35, but he's the greatest player of his generation. He's just come off what was a bit like in Greek epic times. There'd be poems written about him. The Argentinian World Cup win in December, he delivered glory to that nation. I think they've just finished the bender of celebration that started in the wake of that.
And this is bigger than Pele?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, we're living in a different world. We're living in a wired world. We're living in a interconnected world. You know, Lionel Messi may only be 5'7", but he is a human billboard that is visible from space. We always say the Great Wall of China is visible from space. It's not. But Lionel Messi, what he does, how he plays, where he gets his carne asada, where he walks his giant dog, Senor Hulk, all of these make global news the second it occurs, and it resounds across the world. And for that to happen in MLS, you know, a league that, to be candid, needed an identity. You know, the great players were not coming here. They were going to Saudi Arabia is offering oil refineries to any great player who wants to go there. Lionel Messi's wife did not fancy bringing up the 3 kids in an oil refinery.
Yeah, go figure.
Yes. So she's like, nah, how about Miami? We got an apartment there. And credit MLS, you know, the young American players, they're all leaving America. They want to play in the best teams, you know, your Pulisic's, your Gio Reyners, your Tyler Adams. They want to play for the best teams they can in Europe. So MLS needed an identity, and credit them. They went out and got the biggest face in the global game, and he will be playing. Ticket sales have gone up, like, you know, you watch on StubHub, how quickly they shot up to from face value X 1,000 into Miami's Instagram, which was 1 million this time. Yesterday, I think it's just top 5 million. Stadia will be packed. This is going to be the Beatles reforming, playing across our nation. And kids, in all seriousness, Dan, kids will be able to pay witness to the greatest footballer who I've ever seen. I'm not a religious man, but I've watched him play. I've watched him play in Barcelona, watched him play in Paris. And it is spiritual watching this tiny human being he's like the Dalai Lama in cleats.
Where does he rank greatest players of all time?
Christian Pulisic, number 1, and probably Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi a close second.
Okay, all right, I respect that.
He is. I mean, this gentleman is diminutive. He looks like he's just wandered out of your local supercuts. But there's a great poet in Uruguay, Eduardo Galeano, who sadly died recently. But I interviewed him once, and he said, you know, Maradona played as if the ball was stuck to his shoe, to his boot, to his cleat. He said Lionel Messi plays as if that ball is actually inside his sock. And it is incredible what he does, but it's not just what he does on the field, it's what he does off it. And Lionel Messi going courtside at the Heat, Lionel Messi, you know, going down to high-five Patrick Mahomes before a Chiefs-Dolphins game, you know, Jack Harlow jetting in for every single game that he plays. That's the circus times 1 million that we're about to see. And when you project that forward commercially with a World Cup coming here in 2026, Mexico, Canada, the United States, those two forces together, Dan. All of your fans who are probably tweeting and being like, "No soccer, Dan. What is this?" Remember, Jack Kemp didn't die so that this football could be considered football. They're going to be genuinely very disappointed.
Okay, is this a greater moment for the United States or a bigger disappointment for Europe or soccer outside the United States that Messi has come here?
God, that's an incredible question. Look, the Saudi thing is slightly insane. The live golf that you've no doubt talked about up the wazoo.
But what's their end game in Saudi Arabia with gathering all these soccer players?
To own the Dan Patrick Show, to be all of our bosses, Dan. We're all going to work. Why are they doing it? Not to get all geopolitical on your ass for a second, but Saudi Arabia, the Gulf. We did a whole podcast series about it with Crooked Media called World Corrupt. Why would Qatar, this tiny country, want the World Cup? Why would FIFA give them the World Cup? Those are the two questions we looked at. And the reality is, geopolitically, Saudi Arabia is in a complex place. It has infinite money as a petro state, but it also has a deeply complicated reality. Deeply complicated is doing a lot of work there, Dan. They murdered Khashoggi, the bombing of Yemen, the human rights record. That's rationally deeply challenging to a lot of people. However, sports is not rational. Sports is emotional. When we watch sports, the Qatar thing, in the run-up to Qatar, everyone was like, oh my God, we must protest. And then Messi ran through 5 players, scored an we're like, oh my God, did you see that? Qatar's amazing. And so by linking Formula One, by owning golf, by owning football teams, Saudi Arabia own Newcastle, Qatar own Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City are playing the Champions League final on Saturday. They're owned by Abu Dhabi. You can, and if you speak to the Manchester City human beings, it's quite interesting. They bought Manchester City on the same day as they spent, I can't remember the number, something like 100 times what they spent on Manchester City. They spent on a tech plant in California to make chips. And what they couldn't believe was the chip plant was a local news story and a tech story, minor. Oh, this tech plant sold. The Manchester City story was heard all around the world.
Yeah. And
when you buy global football, you are buying the greatest platform to communicate, to rebrand. Oh, we're not Saudi Arabia of the Khashoggi bone sores. You see on Newcastle, did you see we've got Messi walking? Here's Saudi Arabia's tourist ambassador. Ronaldo plays here. And that's ultimately, they want the World Cup. The short answer is they want the 2030 World Cup to be in Saudi Arabia. And the way things are going, what does football like more than anything? Not rationality, not geopolitics. Oh, money. They probably will get it.
When do we get Ronaldo?
Who's we? The Dan Patrick Show?
No. The United States. MLS. Does MLS get Ronaldo?
Oh, Danny P. Do you want Ronaldo? Do you want a preening show pony that is like a bottle of Drakkar Noir come alive in human form? Is that what we
have? You smelled Ronaldo before?
I have. I have. Funny enough, I'll tell you this. You're asking great questions. In 2012, I was in Donetsk in Ukraine at the Euros, the football tournament. And my hotel room, I couldn't, what do you hate when you arrive in a city? When you get to the hotel and they're like, sorry, your room's not ready. I was like, so I did the thing you do. What? My room? And they're like, sir, the check-in is 3:00. Well, it's 12:30. And finally, I made enough of a fuss that they put me in a room, and it was quite a nice room. What had happened was Portugal had played Spain the night before. I'd actually been at the game, and they'd lost. And so Portugal flew home. And I walked into that room. I opened the door, and my Lord, it smelled of Drakkar Noir. It took me months to get rid of the stench of Drakkar Noir. And I said to the hotel manager who showed me in with the key, I said, Ronaldo stayed here last night, didn't he? He said, yes, how did you know? And I was like, just tuition, maybe?
Yeah. Is David Beckham officially an American?
David Beckham is an incredible human being.
But is he American?
Let's claim him. What is an American?
I'm saying, let's just make him, an official American. He's saved MLS now twice. L.A. and now Miami.
Amazing. which is amazing. And so there are layers to this story. I spoke to the great Ray Hudson yesterday. If you don't know who he is, fans of this show, you probably heard his clips. He's like the crazy commentator, poet, philosopher who, when Messi scores, used to commentate and say things like, he's out of his Vulcan mind. He's got a food mixer down his pants and it's set to beat. Stuff like that. So I interviewed him because Ray Hudson played in the NASL. He lives in Fort Lauderdale. I call him like Lionel Messi's dad. Like he adores this human. I wanted to get his reaction. And he said Lionel Messi is about to play on the field that Pele played on in Fort Lauderdale, that Johan Cruyff played on, that Beckenbauer. Like, there's a lot of history to this. There's a lot of layers. And one of the beautiful stories, I think, is that David Beckham did come over here at a time when MLS was really struggling. You know, there were 13 teams, I think. There's now 29. And it was his arrival that transformed MLS, legitimized it, made many other players think, you know, if Beckham can go there, I will too. Commercially gave the league heft. And the fact that he owns Inter Miami and was a part of the team who negotiated this deeply complex and creative
This was
deal.
just a simple question, Roger. Should we make
biblical.
him an American?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, but it's biblical. David Beckham begat Lionel Messi for America. They're both American now, right, Dan? Isn't that how it works?
He's a great addition. You're a great addition. David Faraday, a great addition. David Beckham, Rebecca Lowe, great addition.
Oh, she is a great addition.
Yes, she is. Yes,
she's a great American. And Dan, ultimately, 2026 World Cup. Let's play Beckham in the middle. Let's have Lionel Messi. Let's have Lionel Messi just, you know, playing.
It's Lionel.
Not in America. Not when he's American. They'll change his name.
Here it's Lionel.
Yeah, they'll change his name at Ellis Island. They'll be like, "You're Lionel now, son. Now get in there. Make something of yourself. It's the American way. Lionel, you came here with nothing. You're now Lionel." We see a future for you in this nation. God bless him.
He is Roger Bennett, Men in Blazers. Great to talk to you.
Great to be with you, you beautiful human being. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. That's Roger Bennett. Always great to have Roger on. We appreciate his insight, his passion. Yeah. If you guys are going to applaud on that side of the glass, you got to turn your microphone.
Yeah. Roger Bennett.
All right, Rod.
Love that guy.